Welcome back to MVM. Today we have a Kickstarter preview. This one is for the Towers of Arkhanos. It is from Creative Games Studio. It is a 2 to 4 player dice drafting game where you're going to be using those dice along with some tiles to build some towers on the table.
Yeah, so each player is representing one of the many different wizards guilds who is trying to have the most prestige by contributing to building these towers in their land, so to speak. There are 4 different towers. You have a central tower, and then you have 3 towers that flank it. They score differently depending upon which tower you build it into. Now, each player is going to come to the game with an X number of apprentices and 1 master. These are kind of used for the area control within the game. A very small bit of area control because each of these particular tiles has 3 different pillars on them, plus a spot for 1 of the different apprentices or masters. You're going to be trying to get area control in these, plus getting some kind of bonus from the tile itself. Also, each player is going to come to the game with a spell book. The spell book has 6 different slots. Depending on where the apprentice may be located on these slots, you can remove those apprentices to be able to get some kind of ability or combo abilities by removing several apprentices at the same time.
Yeah, and we also have a mana pool board, which is kind of not really the scoreboard, but this is going to track the rounds. It's going to house the leftover dice from each round, and it also shows you how many points you're going to score for the various towers.
Also, there's going to be dice in the game. There's 4 different colored dice. These are also going to be called mana stones. You're going to be using these or drafting these mana stones to be able to build sections of the tower. All right, so the game is very, very simple to play. We've set up a 4-player game. It's already into round 4, so it's a game in progress. At the start of the round, depending on who the first player is, in this case it's me, I'm going to pull an X number of dice from the bag. In a 4-player game, that's 5 dice, meaning that 1 is going to be left over because each of us is only going to draft 1 of those 5 dice. On my turn, I'm going to roll the dice, and then once the dice are rolled, I'm going to place it in the center, and being the first player, I get to pick any one of these dice to draft. Now, I could take any of the dice. Now, I have to look at these combinations of what the particular level requires. We'll talk about that right now. Any of the outer levels, meaning the 3 sections on the outside, are going to be what's called a floor tile. On the back side is a ceiling tile. You can go ahead and explain the ceiling tile, but I'll explain the floor tile. The floor tiles are going to tell you some combination and color of dice. In this case, when I'm looking at this one, this requires purple dice and only ones that have values of 1 or 2 pips on it. Now you're going to see 3 pillars on it. Where I place that die depends, it's going to give me some kind of benefit. If it's this location, it has to be the dice plus 1 of my either apprentice or master. That's 2 victory points. This one is victory points equal to how high vertically the level is. And the final one allows me to place my die in this location plus my apprentice or master, and then take one of my other apprentices or masters and place them in one of 2 different locations. Those locations can either be my spellbook or on any one of the pillars that exists in the game. Now, if you place it in your spellbook, it has to equal the pip value that you placed here. So if I placed a 3 here, I have to place it on my 3 on my spellbook. If I want to place it on another tile somewhere, I'm simply going to take this and place it on any one of the pillars, but I do not get to take that action, and it locks that particular character in for the rest of the game.
Yeah, that apprentice or master is basically going to serve the role as one of the dice pillars as we build that tower.
So to show you that example, I'm going to go ahead and draft the 4 of the purple. I'm going to go ahead and place it here to build a pillar with this, meaning that I can now either take one of my apprentices and place it on my 4 or place it somewhere else. Now I'll go ahead and explain this before how scoring works before we get into that. I'm going to place it here. Now what this does is this is going to finish out that tower. Once you have all 3 pillars complete, you score the tower. And you're going to score the tower depending upon whoever has the most area control. Each of your apprentices is worth 1, and your master is worth 2, and you're simply going to add that up. The person that has the most is going to score 6 victory points on the outside. They're going to keep their meeples that are locked into that location permanently imprisoned in there, and they're going to remove these back and then take the next one and place it right there. Second place is going to get 4, and then if people are tied, they're going to get 3 points. So there's a division on the outsides on how those work.
Yeah, and that is the meat of what's going on in the middle of the table with these towers. The other tower, the middle tower, is going to be these ceiling tiles. These are completely different in that there's no really prerequisite for this. You can place any color die here you want, any pip value you want. You're not going to get the 2 points or the points for the level of the tower or anything like that, but what you are going to get is the flexibility of placing any die plus depending on the pip value you use. So for instance, if I used this 1 purple die and placed it on here, I would place one of my apprentice or masters there. Then I would place another apprentice or master on the 1 in my spell book. So basically, this center tower is a way, sort of the most basic way, of filling your spell book with things that you can fire off.
And each player is going to draft 1 of the dice, and once that's done, the final die that is not drafted on that turn is going to be placed into the mana pool. Why is it going to be placed in the mana pool? 2 reasons. Number 1, it's the round tracker. It's the easiest way to see that. Number 2, when you look at your spell book, there are 6 different actions depending upon where you pull your apprentice off. One of them on here allows you to pull your apprentice off and trade the dice that you drafted that round for something from the mana pool. And these have all kinds of different abilities. I'll talk about the first one. It's the easiest. It's called Lesson 1. It allows me to take any of the other 5 abilities on my spellbook, which is fantastic.
Yeah, Lesson 1's the best one by far. Lesson 2 is what you might expect. This is going to be +1 or -1 to the pip value on the die that you're using.
Lesson 3 is pretty simple. If you guys know about dice, when you flip it over, it's always a value of 7. So a 5 becomes a 2, a 1 becomes a 6, and a 3 becomes a 4. So that just allows you to flip a die over to its other side and use that value instead.
Yeah, Lesson 4 is called Metamorphosis. This allows you to use the die that you have as any color, no matter what the color of the die is.
We already mentioned Lesson 5 that allows you to take the die and trade it with something from the mana pool and then immediately use that die, which is fantastic, especially the longer the game gets because you have more die to choose from.
And then finally, number 6, Lesson 6 is a little different. You're going to actually take the bag along with the die that you drafted, pull one at random, roll it up, and then you can choose between that die or the die that you had drafted.
Yep, and you're going to do that until the end of the 8th round. Again, anytime a tower is built, you're going to replace it with a new tower, so there's always going to be a new combination of things that come out. At the very end of the game, at the end of the 8th round, there's 2 extra sets of points that you can possibly score. Number 1, you're going to rescore the towers even if they are not complete. And you're going to score lesser points. So at the end of the game, it's going to be 3 points if you have majority, 2 points if you're in 2nd place, and so forth. So everyone's going to score some points for what they have left up. Plus, anything that you have on your spellbook is going to give you 1 victory point. So at the end of the game, if I had 1 here and 1 here, that's an additional 2 points. Then you're going to score up all the prestige that you've scored throughout the game because you're going to be acquiring that round after round.
Yeah, you're going to be getting prestige, like Jeremy said, all throughout the game, and you're able to keep it face down. So at the end of the game, it's anyone's guess who collected the most points for sure.
Yep. Very straightforward game. Dice drafting, which we both love.
Yeah.
2 to 4 players. Takes maybe 30 to 40 minutes to play.
Very quick.
Very quick. If you guys have any questions about it, make them in the comments below. Of course, check out their Kickstarter page. I'm sure there'll be some cool stretch goals with different floor tiles and everything else. If you guys have any questions, make them in the comments below. We'll catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.